This channel is only possible thanks to direct contributions from viewers like Kronos,
Ryan Nelson,
Argus, Bleed Red, Christopher Welch, and you. If you'd like to contribute to making more videos like this possible, you can do so for as little as $1 a month on Patreon, or by buying a t-shirt at the merch store. Thanks a bunch, and I hope you enjoy the show.
When we first meet him in Homestuck and PesterQuest, Dave Strider is a 13-year-old living in a high-rise apartment in Houston, Texas. Despite posing as an aloof, ironic internet cool guy with babes hanging off his arms, Dave is actually such a nerdy loner dweeb that he genuinely thinks his best friend John is an impressive paragon of heroic masculinity, even as he rips into him for liking mediocre action-adventure movies. If John represents the upbeat, comedic spirit of Homestuck, then Dave introduces us to its late 2000s pop culture sensibility, as an internet cool guy who runs his own niche comic and blogging websites. Dave also does a lot of macho posturing, pretending to be a really cool and badass dude who's the best at rap and lands tons of babes and whatnot. That said, John, Rose, and Jade don't take his act too seriously. This might be partly because his total audience seems to be just the three of them, and partly because Dave's facade is pretty easy for all three of them to see through. Dave himself, however, has a much harder time separating what he presents himself as from who he actually is. This is largely due to his upbringing. Dave is raised by his bro, a stoic, hyper-ironic, and highly violent dude guy who was himself influenced by the demented, evil souls housed inside Lil Cal. These souls also influenced Dave himself, pulling both Strider brothers towards a path that upholds might makes right, hatred of women, and strict and rigid codes of masculine supremacy that demand the pursuit of power above all else. This is further enforced by his bro's style of upbringing, which involved ruthless battle training on rooftops, emotionally detached lessons in irony, and disturbing puppet imagery that was sometimes hyper-violent and sometimes subtly sexual. At one point, Dave is even recorded accidentally participating in a puppet snuff film, presumably to provide content to one of bro's online puppet smut businesses. Dave grows up psychologically suffocated by these living conditions. Not only is he subject to physical abuse, emotional neglect, and pseudo-sexual and economic exploitation, but he's also taught to fiercely internalize his bro's value system and uphold it as the benchmark for his own value as a person. So while Dave isn't actually the macho tough guy he pretends he is, he does grow up earnestly believing he should be, and that the fact that he isn't constitutes some personal moral failure on his own part. Early in his story, he mostly pretends he thinks his bro and the puppet interests he represents are the coolest thing ever, even though he's actually deeply disturbed by them. It's worth noting that early in Homestuck, Dave's abusive upbringing is mostly played for laughs. It's only later into the comic that Dave begins to let himself introspect as to how awful he felt most of his childhood. However, even when the comic exploits Dave's distress comedically, his discomfort is still apparent. The blurring of the lines between the uncomfortable and the funny helps put the audience in an ambiguous, voyeuristic position onto Dave's experience. Just like Dave himself, we're not entirely sure what to make of his experiences right away, which is very much the situation that a lot of abuse victims find themselves in early in life, with no barometer for whether or not their own experiences are normal. And just like Dave's friends, we're encouraged to play what he's going through for laughs by Dave himself, both through his insistence that nothing is wrong, and through his aggressive, cool-headed posturing, which subtly makes the audience want to see the rug pulled out from under him. In this way, the reader is pulled into the casually callous minds of a group of 13-year-olds. Dave himself is capable of some young-hearted callousness to his friends, too. He's frequently dismissive of Rose's interests and writing. He lectures to John about how terrible his interests are frequently, and his crush on Jade results in him casually dismissing her competence, deciding she needs protection without consulting her about it. He's comfortable enough with the idea that he knows best that at one point, he even figures out how to get Jade to punch herself, just to get her to wake up, effectively using physical violence to make her do what he wants. In short, young Dave is kind of a douche. In a way, we could see his tendency toward championing regressive societal values and cruelties as a very early dark example of his class-back tendencies. A knight, unknowingly serving his man-child lord's cultural and ideological decrees, as transmitted to him by Lil Cal and Bro. But again, he is still very caring towards his friends where it counts, and his knight tendencies come through here too. For example, gifting his friends music, giving them his time in the form of long-winded rambling, and most obviously, being willing to jump through time loops and risk his own mortality just to ensure they're as safe as he can make them, are all things that could conceivably be covered by the knight class's verbiage, to serve their aspect, or to serve through their aspect. That aspect of his character comes into focus with Dave Accelerate, but I think we're out of time for this video, so we'll have to pick that up next time. Thanks for watching, and until then, keep rising.
Huge thanks go out to my patrons for making this video possible. If you want to help support the channel and come join us at our awesome and growing Discord community, feel free to join us for as little as $1 a month. You can also find me on the r/Hiveswap Reddit and Discord. That's all for now, so thank you again, and as always, keep rising.